The Aussie Mixed and Fixed series is the baby of Ryan Kolstad, developed out of the desire to create a clean and fair racing series that nurtures and develops driving talent in your GT3 and GTEs. Today, we welcome you to Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. It's located in Ontario, Canada, only an hour's drive from Toronto itself and a couple of hours away from the United States border. Today it hosts the fourth round of the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League. All coverage on Apex Racing TV. The track details are up on screen, of course. Myself, Jonathan Simon, joined by Sam Fitzpatrick for today's broadcast. Samuli Coolmore is on production behind the scenes. And Sam, we're here at Mosport, or a track formerly known as Mosport. Very tight and twisty, long radius corners, a whopping 50 meters of elevation change. But most importantly, it's going to be an exciting super sprint format with two 20-minute races here to challenge the drivers today.
Yeah, absolutely. This is an awesome circuit. So unique, so old school as well. Like you said, long radius corners, so many elevation changes as well. And of course, you got that long back straight as well. Not necessarily the easiest circuit to overtake round, but at the same time, you can have some absolutely awesome side-by-side battling and 20-minute races, a format that we're quite familiar with, of course, on Apex Racing TV with our BSR League coverage. And that means that the drivers cannot waste any time here. And of course, we've also got a full reverse grid as well, so that will really mix up the action for race 2. But first, race 1, the drivers just gridding up now, and in fact just starting their formation lap as well. Fantastic field out there today. Of course, we've got GTEs and GT3, so hopefully twice the action. And these are all very top drivers. There was actually a pre-qualifying for this to get into this top split of the race. And so these guys are really the best of the league, no doubt about that.
Sam, I'll let you go through the grid in just a second's time, but you talked about the overtaking spots. It looks like today turn 5 might be a good look into the double apex right-hander, but maybe into turn 8 at the end of the Mario Andretti straightaway. Two good overtaking points on this circuit, especially from that long run from turn 6 to turn 8, full throttle.
Yeah, I think turn 8 will probably be the best opportunity, because not only can you go down the inside, but also the outside is a possibility as the track rubbers in. Sometimes there can be a little bit more grip on the outside there. And of course, if you can go around the outside at 8, then you've got the inside for 9 as well. And of course, expect a few surprise moves, maybe into the final corner, maybe into turn 2 or turn 1 as well. But in terms of the grid out there, in the GTEs, we've got Stephen Latsmore on the pole position ahead of Matt Morris. Then it's Adam Gardner in 3rd with Nathan Herpax in 4th. Then it's Jeremy Clark, Nathan Anderson, Gary Cousins, Justin Wallace, Pat Gallo, and Troy Maguire rounding out the top 10 there. It's Yavin Wood, David Miller, Dean Ross, Tyler Blackburn, Jordan Prudent, Rob Gray, Chad Hearn, James Wilson, Fulton Penny, Chris Whitaker, Brock Kramer, Simon Lartzer, Paul Wood, Simon Mizomo, Scott Chambers, and then of course in the GT3s we've got Matt Allison on the pole position. Alongside him is Martin Casey, then it's Damon Mulqueen and Alan Harding. The rest of the field will slot through for you now, because we're heading into these final few corners before the race will begin.
Exactly right. And the drivers will head through past turn 8. Driver leading away your grid, Stephen Lattimore, is up ahead. He is heading through the final corner. Here we go, green, for 20 minutes of racing.
Good start for Latsmore straight away, pulling away from the rest of the field. Such an advantage being the pole sit, and seemingly not too many collisions, not too many changes of position either. Wallace getting ahead of Cousins for P7. In the GT3s, it stayed pretty much static as well. In fact, Damon Mulqueen maybe just making up a position momentarily. He's now side by side with Martin Casey, who's going around the outside, but Mulqueen just about drops in behind Casey there. So a good start for Matt Allison as well. Once again, pole sitter, massive advantage already. Breaking quite a bit of that toe.
Yeah, they're all starting to form up here through the middle part of the lap for the first time. And your GT3s Well, here are your Ferraris, the Porsches, your GTEs now ahead. This little scrap here that we're watching Jarvan Wood, who's trying to make up just a few more positions here in the early laps. And very clean first lap, has to be said, for a sprint race here, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. These drivers want to get to the front as soon as possible, and of course on the opening lap that is your best chance, but really no one making big progress. Jarvan Wood has had a poor start. He's gone from 11th to 17th, so we might see a little bit of contact there. We've got Jarvan Wood over the curve, and in fact he's going to maybe lose a couple more positions. We've got 3 wide across the line starting lap 2, and now it is getting a little bit more feisty. These drivers, yeah, trying to make up as many positions as possible, and fantastic action going into turn 2.
So race control looking at well, they said it's a racing incident. There was a first incident where there were 3 wide on the opening lap. But at the end of the first lap, though, Stephen Lattimore still leads your GTEs, and down in your GT3s, it's still Matt Allison up ahead. But the gap advantage for both those drivers is only half a second here. There is Matt Allison on screen. And is he run a bit wide, or is that, I believe that is actually Martin Casey behind making a mistake, and that's going to open the door for the driver of Damon Mulqueen, and he promotes himself to second possibly.
Yeah, just a small mistake, so easy to do in that corner. I've seen a mistake like that so many times because you desperately don't want to dip a wheel onto the grass, so you just can't get out to the dots a little bit on the exit, and well, that's really cost him now, and yeah, drops down into 3rd position, and also a little bit of a break from Matt Allison out in the lead.
Big, huge break. Here we look down the back of the order. This is Liam Tipping. Right on board with him now. We head towards the end of the Mario Andretti straight away. Oh, there's no room there, Liam, and he thinks better of it for sure. And he's just trying to maybe force him offline, get into his head just a little bit, and that's the driver of Bradley Sanders ahead for 111 Esports. And God, that was a thrilling sight, wasn't it, from that angle?
Oh, I think we've got a car off, have we? I thought, oh yeah, Chris Whitaker off the circuit, and there's cars coming past him right now. So Whitaker was running, not sure, I think he was in the top 10, but yeah, oh, sorry, that was Wilson, and a massive impact as well.
Yeah, so a couple of cars out of the event, and race control and Ryan Kolstad will certainly be looking at that in this event, but there is that car stricken the pit lane, that FT1 car of James Wilson, the Ferrari, and his day is just about done at this stage in time. He's going to have to wait for that second sprint race. So the second race of 20 minutes, we have reverse grid order, Sam, but it's only for the drivers that finish on the lead lap.
Yes, it means that drivers who retire from the race don't get an advantage, which I think is a very fair way of doing it. And I know the BSR leagues have very much copied that methodology in the past. So, yeah, so, but that's still a massive reverse grid for both classes. So it will be tough for the race leaders from this race to be anywhere near the front by the end of the second race.
So we're watching Jeremy Clark now on the screen. He's currently in 5th position overall for Riot Sim Racing. And he's followed by this bunch of Nathan Anderson and Justin Wallace behind. And Anderson has started 6th, still in the 6th position, now under attack here from Justin Wallace. And should be a fairly easy move. He has that inside line, has the track advantage, Sam, but it's a different move, isn't it, into turn 8. Let's see if he can pull it off.
Yeah, the outside line can be pretty advantageous potentially, as he's trying to exhibit right now. Wallace, though, maybe just pulling ahead. Now he's got the inside for the final corner, keeps his nose down the inside, but really nice driving, good spatial awareness from the pair there. And hanging on to that position there is Anderson.
So, excuse me, sorry Sam, just had a few technical issues there. So, still in that scrap, aren't they, in these early laps? But I like that battle for P3 and P4 and your GTEs up ahead. Matt Morris and Nathan Hupperts. They're very close to each other, of course, as we can see. But those two, that's 0.2 of a second the gap, but extremely close.
Yeah, absolutely. We also just saw a bit of an incident, I think, for Simon Mazzoma and a couple of other drivers. So another little bit of a poor incident there for FT1 Motorsports. But yeah, that's a few more of the GTEs with damage out there, and they drop to the back of the pack, which could be advantageous, of course, for race 2. And as long as they finish this race, and also, just a reminder, these drivers get 2 faster pairs. So if you don't finish on the lead lap, no offense, you're clearly doing something a little bit wrong, seeing that it's only 20 minutes long. But you really do need to get into a proper pile-up and struggle to get your car back to the pits. So those guys, actually, if you get in a bit of an incident, you should be okay for the second races. Yarvin Wood trying to make up some positions from the ones that he lost earlier on. Still can't get past Rob Gray, though. Had a small look going into the final corner, but couldn't make it stick. Still Matt Allison, by the way, leading the way in the GT3 cars, as Fulton Penny has had another incident quite a bit far from the circuit.
And this track is, I mean, incidents are imminent, aren't they here? They're more runoff areas. Actually, I don't see any runoff areas at all, which is what I like to see, is we Matt Allison in the BMW lead the GT3s away, but here he heads through some nice fun corners, not overtaking spots, but he passes Clayton corner turn 2 and then Quebec corner turn 3, and then turn 5, 6 here coming up, the double apex right-hander. It reminds me a lot, Sam, of Road Atlanta in the middle part of that lap before the long straight. Yeah,
absolutely. And yeah, quite a unique kind of set of corners with the elevation change and then all of a sudden dipping. Ever so difficult that first part, because you the main thing about this circuit, and I think it's kind of emphasized by iRacing, of course, is if you dip a wheel onto the grass around this circuit, you're heading into the barrier, which that's the main challenge of this track. And of course, iRacing perhaps doesn't have the best model when it comes to touching the grass. But you got to keep it within the confines of the circuit, and well, it's almost as though there's a wall on the outside of the circuit. There's really no margin for error whatsoever.
So now we see Scott Gamble, and he is in your leading Audi in the GT3s. Not often I see Audis these days. I encourage that because there's so much talk, Sam, of the difference in balance of power, and even in this series, a lot of people have been arguing about the BOP, as the acronym's known. But I just never see the Audis these days. Why?
I'm not entirely sure, because last season, half the World Championship teams were running Audis, and yet in all the leagues that I could see, no one was running the Audis. So apparently it's quite a difficult car to handle, apparently. But no, we always want diversity out there. We want to see, you know, as even split as possible. We want to see lots of different cars, lots of different strengths and advantages. And one good thing about this Mosport circuit is that there's not usually a dominant car. It's not like Monza, where maybe the McLaren is completely dominant. Of course, you got this long straight, you got some fast corners, you got some slow corners. So really, whatever car you're in, you should have a fighting chance around this place.
Oh, certainly. And so that was, I like that. You're very positive about that, aren't you? It was very like, we were reading some of the notes pre-broadcast. They said it's a balance of performance. It's a buzzword, especially with the Ferrari drivers. They've just been, people have been defending the BMW's performance, it was said, and there's a lot about it. At the end of the day, if you're quick, you're quick. I think you can make almost any car work. I saw that when in the iRacing Rallycross World Championship, when Mitchell de Jong bravely used the Subaru and ended up winning the championship in it. And at the time, everyone was saying it was the slowest of the 3 cars when it was released.
I mean, to be fair, there's no Mitchell de Jong in this field, but I absolutely see your point. As Alan Harding going off the circuits, and he's got a bit of damage. Is he going to be able to continue? Still kind of ailing that car around. He is dropping behind Bradley Sanders. So Harding was pretty near the front, I think. He was in 4th position, was Alan Harding. So that's quite a big casualty there. And top in his class as well. I'll have to have a quick read on how the classes are defined. But he's really struggling now. So he got some steering damage on that. He needs to try to stay on the lead lap.
Sure. And of course, because that means with the reverse grid, isn't it, Sam, that he'll be able to start a lot higher. But I'm looking forward to that second race. Have you been in many reverse grid events in the past?
Well, my one claim to success was winning the BSRTC or the
Reverse grip.
BSR Winter Series earlier on in the year. And so Matt Morris is having a look, but no,
Whatever
that
takes
was
the spot.
that was a constant reverse grids in that. And but of course, Morris this time is going to go down the inside, and that is a rather firm move down the inside of Nathan Herpatz,
Oh!
who is now into the wall, and that could be his race over. He's got to do an entire lap to get back to the pits, and well, that car's severely damaged, I think.
Two fast repairs available for the drivers, but I don't think it's terminal damage for Nathan Huppert, but he's almost certainly broken the suspension. And we see a Porsche off in the foreground, now the background, heading through the early parts of the lap. So this is Quebec corner, then they head through turn 5 and 6, 7 coming up. But Nathan Huppert's right now was in your top 5. Jeremy Clark hunting him down to take that position. I guess he's just going to have to finish the race with 5 minutes to go. He's completely off the racetrack now. He's struggling immensely in the Ferrari.
Yeah, and he's trying to get out of the way of the other drivers. Credit to Nathan here, and that was the best thing to do to get onto the grass. And, well, he's going to be looking really strong in this race too now, because he should stay on the lead lap. But, well, it's still frustrating to see all these drivers wash past you as you're fighting for third place just a few seconds ago. And he's, well, I hate him to even look at the position that he's in now. He must be outside the top 15.
And he certainly is about to be. He's in 14th now, but you're right. Another position now. He's almost out of the top 15. So enters the pit lane finally, does Nathan Huppert. And he'll be looking forward to race 2. That's the beauty of these events here in the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League, is that you'll be able to race in the second part in just a few minutes time. But race 1 hasn't concluded. Stephen Lattimore still leads for your GTEs. Back in your GT3s, Matt Allison still in the first position, and those two, Sam, have driven splendidly for a sprint event, have not left that first position. They've led every single lap of this event so far.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Stephen Lattimore in the Euro V8 Supercar stage, and he was always a very quick driver, and he's certainly had a cool head on his shoulders, and also Matt Allison as well as Justin Wallace. The resumption of this battle, because Anderson and Wallace have been glued to one another for the entire race. Wallace just hasn't been able to make it so far. This is for 4th position, and they've still got Jeremy Clark and also Dean Ross. Dean Ross, one of the highest gainers, up 6 places. This could be a nice 4-way battle right at the conclusion of the event. As they've got to watch out for drivers coming out of the pits as well. It can always be an issue here at Mosport.
I was about to say, there's a Mercedes coming out of the pits, but it's not going to get in the way. And by the way, Dean Ross, privateer out here today. Somebody pick him up. He's driving immensely well. Never said those 2 words together, immensely well. It's a new phrase. But
it's good.
Wallace, is he trying to put? That's Nathan Anderson ahead for the Pulse Racing team, so that's that battle for 4th and 5th. Here's this train, though, from Dean Ross all the way back to the driver of Rob Gray. So 7th to 12th in one battle, Wallace and Clark in another, and along with Anderson in the 4th position. But your top 3 look untouched in GTE, so it's all these battles for these final few points paying positions.
Yeah, definitely. And once you get into a train like this, so difficult to break it as Anderson, he has lost that place now to Wallace. So Wallace finally makes it. Anderson didn't seem to put up too much of a defense there. Maybe just lost the inside line early on down the straight, and they couldn't retaliate. So Justin Wallace up 4 places himself.
Oh! A huge battle right now. They made contact. That was Blackburn and Miller through the final corner. And luckily, I believe they're both facing straight. Here's Wallace, though, on screen. He's ahead of Nathan Anderson now, as Sam just said. But that was very, very close through the final corner. And, oh, gosh. Brilliant racing with just a minute to go here in the event. Or a few minutes to go, excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, just losing out there, and yeah, so that's really reaching a climax with a couple of laps to go. David Miller hanging on to this position. Porsche versus Porsche currently. Didn't see a whole lot of Porsches in the iRacing Le Mans series the other day. as Dean Ross is just dropping down a little bit. He's been overtaken by Jeremy Clark and Guy Cousins in the past couple of seconds. Here is this battle. So Cousins getting ahead of Ross, and Gallo only just behind side by side. We've seen so much of this so far in this race, and we've seen moves into the final corner not working too well. Fortunately, that time Cousins didn't try to get past Ross, who hangs on to P7. Oh, another contact. Anderson is round. Somehow collects it with a little bit of contact with the wall, but he loses 4, 5, 6 places.
So Anderson was having a splendid event so far, and he's going to find himself in this crazy train down the rear end of the order. There's Rob Gray behind, racing for Flying Giraffe. And will he fly his neck past Nathan Anderson this time round? Anderson's on the back foot here. He's having a look here into the middle part of the lap. This is a strong braking zone coming up. There's no room to overtake. You can see they have to start to form up to this double apex right-hander, but here's the opportunistic overtaking spot. You get the draft out of here, you get that toe, and Rob Gray could promote himself into the top 10 and make Nathan Anderson's day a little more worse.
Yeah, Tyler Blackburn's rapidly closing in on these guys as well down this straight. Only 0.3 of a second separate the three of them. But you can see Gray not quite getting close enough. Maybe the slipstream from Miller that Anderson got just helped him a little bit. And Blackburn looking every which way. But you can see this Mosport circuit relatively narrow. Just no way through around kind of 80% of this track.
Right on board with Rob Gray now. And he just can't make his way past. Here we see Bradley Sanders. This is back in your GT3 field. So 2 classes racing out here today. Good to see I mean, we've had to split this event into 2 different splits, so we're watching the top split right now, but as we see Bradley Sanders try and pull off a move on the Audi of Scott Gamble. It's getting close, so just listening to race control as well there, Sam, but Ryan Kolstad from Race Control giving a penalty to one of the drivers. Didn't quite hear who it was. We'll try and get some information soon, but just not given enough room with some contact.
Yeah, I think it was the 330 car. I am not sure who that was. Yeah, I didn't see a 330 on there, but...
Oh, no, they're Nathan Anderson. So back to the Nathan Anderson incident. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so that makes sense now. So that's the incident with Nathan Anderson and Jeremy Clark earlier on. And they've deemed that Nathan Anderson has not given enough room. And at the end of the day, Nathan Anderson's the one that lost out the most. So I guess that's what Ryan Kolstad means by self-penalizing with just... we just have over a minute to go in this event.
Yeah, so it's kind of 2 penalties there for an incident. But as Simon Larter has to come into the pits. And... yeah, maybe a fast repair, something going on here. But they need to make sure that they're on the lead lap as Rob Gray is off the circuit.
That's not good. That's not where you want to be. Here's the replay up on screen. Sam, talk us through it. But Rob Gray's day is done and dusted. Here he heads through Clayton Corner. Yeah,
just losing the back end of the car and straight into the tyre wall, and seemingly getting stuck in the tyre wall as well. And, well, oh no, in fact, he has actually managed to get away. So he should finish on the lead lap, and he's going to be another beneficiary of this reverse grid.
Oh, that's Valtteri Bottas-esque, wasn't it, at Austria? Did you see the practice 2 incident?
Just, yes, yeah. The brake failure. Oh, no, it wasn't a brake failure, was it? He just lost the rear end, yeah.
Yeah, he just lost the rear end at high speeds, and so Rob Gray now in the pit lane, so he's out of the event. So he won't finish on the lead lap. But that is, well, that's some heartbreak, isn't it? As the race of attrition continues, and there is not much time to go. The race has hit the 20-minute mark. And Sam, we're coming towards the closing stages now.
Yeah, not long to go. Certainly the race leaders seemingly all done and dusted. But there's still plenty of battles going on down the field. Allison, absolutely superb job. Of course, now we're getting the GTEs up in amongst the GT3s with the issues that the GTEs have had. This is Simon Larter trying to get past Matt Allison. Hopefully he won't do anything rash.
So Matt Allison is on towards a valiant victory. He's driven splendidly in the GT3 class. Lattimore should remain untouched. Let's see if Allison can keep it together here over the finish line coming up, but he's still got plenty of corners to go, plenty of time. He's through the middle part of the lap, and he's driven well, hasn't he, Sam? But I'm quite nervous for Matt Allison. I'm not sure if I mean, I trust him, but that's a Porsche behind. How far back is Damon Mulqueen in second place? About a second behind. There he is on screen. So I guess at the end of the day, Matt Allison should keep this together and grab victory.
Yeah, this should be easy enough, seemingly the Porsche just staying behind his rival at the moment. Or not his rival, but yeah, Matt Allison has driven absolutely fantastically so far in this race, and he's going to round the final corner, and he's going to win race 1 here at Mosport.
Matt Allison celebrates, headlights out and away, and he will take victory. And he's driven really, really well here for the first race. It's going to be reversed, though, for race 2. So let's see if he can make his way up through the order and grab 2 wins out of 2 for today's event. But what a race it was from Matt. Stephen Lattimore as well, leading all laps. Now, question, Sam. I don't think we're going to see in race 2, and I can bet it right now, we probably will not see the same drivers lead every single lap in the second event.
Yeah, I think you might be right there. Of course, you can't win the race on the first corner. I doubt they're going to be able to make up 20-odd positions on the first corner. But in this race too, it's all about not necessarily damage limitation, but it's just about how many positions you can pick up. And as long as they get a top 10, it's still going to be a good point score today. But there are so many drivers who had incidents who were running at the front of the field, and so the front runners of this race too, despite it being a reverse grid, they're actually going to be very quick drivers. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out.
Exactly. So I think it'll be time, Sam, for yourself to look at our final race results for both classes.
Yes, and it's Stephen Lattimore winning out in the GTE and the overall standings. 2.5 seconds ahead of Adam Gardner, who got past Matt Morris relatively early on, so those two second and third. Justin Wallace had a fantastic battle and really worked hard for that 4th place, with Jeremy Clark rounding out the top 5. Dean Ross gained 7 places in the end to finish in 6th, with Guy Cousins in 7th. David Miller finished in 8th, with Pat Gallo in 9th. Then it's Yavin Wood. A little bit of a poor start for Yavin, but actually had a fantastic comeback. I think gaining about 17 places after where he was on lap 1. Behind that was Chad Hearn with Tyler Blackburn in 12th. Then it's Paul Wood, Scott Chambers, Chris Whitaker, Simon Larter, and Jordan Pruden. All those just finished on the lead lap, so it'll be Pruden on the pole position then in the GTE class. The drivers who were 1 lap down were Anderson, Herpax, Mazomo, Gray, Penny, Kramer, Wilson, and Maguire. In the GT3s, Matt Allison was the race winner, 16th place overall. He was comfortably ahead of Damon Mulqueen for the entire race. Martin Casey rounding out the podium there. Behind that was Grant Manaford, Scott Gamble, Liam Tipping, Bradley Sanders, Roy Clark, Alexander Newton, Dean Riedetz, Andy Smith, and Smith in fact was the last driver on the lead lap, so he will finish. Well, actually, I'm not quite sure how that works in the GT3 class, but he should be on pole position in the GT3 class for the next race. The drivers who are 1 lap down on the overall winner were Michael Whiting, Alan Harding, BJ Kennedy, and Ryan Kolstad. Of course, the steward out there.
He's not racing, so that is well, that's your order there, Sam, for race number 1. Very driving standards fairly good between most of the field, but rubbing is racing sometimes. It's good to see a little bit of racing. I heard some drivers post race as well just not happy with some of the driving standards with each other. So let's hope ones who are unhappy become happy in race 2 and get a good result. But as far as I know, I thoroughly enjoyed race 1 so far. Yeah,
that was an awesome race. We were struggling to keep up with all the action because there are constantly battles going on. Perhaps the one thing that it lacked was a tight battle for the lead of both classes. but I have to say, in thinking race 2, we're going to amend that, and I think we're going to have an epic battle for the race lead. Should be really interesting. And also, the racecraft here at Mosport always gets me every time. Just how much, how unpredictable it is with the amount of mistakes that you can make. Just the amount of limit you have to put on those front tires, particularly around the first half of the track. Plenty of mistakes and plenty of tight racing amongst the drivers.
So we'll speak to Stephen Latmore, who ended up winning your event here today for your GTEs. And Stephen, it was a very uneventful race, wasn't it, for you? It looked like it. Led every lap and ended up claiming victory. Well done.
Oh, thanks, fellas. Yeah, no, it was nice and quiet little race. Second race will definitely be a different story. But yeah, just get out in front and try to do consistent lap times, and hopefully the guys would fall off from behind. They kept up with me for a bit, and then yeah, I think the tyres just started eating up.
What do you want us to look out for in race 2? Your immense overtakes, your great start. What's going to be the strategy that you want us to see?
I wouldn't say great strategy, but I would say fuming outrage most of the time. There's a lot of good drivers in here who can hold their racecraft, so it's very hard to overtake around this track to begin with, and they're not going to make my job any easier. And I'm basically going to hopefully rely on the guys who are starting just in front of me to carve their way up, and me just to benefit from it.
How does this sound? You're starting obviously from last or ahead of all the drivers who didn't, finish on the lead lap at least, or finish one lap down, if that makes sense. So then they'll end up passing everybody except Adam Gardner and Matt Morris, and then on the final lap, they take each other out and you win race 2. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds delightful. I'd be very stoked if they end up doing that for me.
Well, good luck. Hope to see you for race 2, I guess, at the end of this, celebrating a second victory.
Thank you very much, fellas, and thanks for jumping on board.
No worries. That is Stephen Latmore. Victor for race 1, Sam for your GTEs, and drove, I'm not going to say it was a boring race, but uneventful for him is a good way to put it, because he just drove so well and led every lap and claimed a good victory.
Yeah, absolutely, and yeah, he'll certainly be one to watch for the next race, because he had superb pace up there. But has he not got the racecraft to back it up? I imagine he probably does. But yeah, it will be a fantastic race 2, and of course, yeah, we'll hop into the next session in a little bit, so that the reverse grid can take effect.
100%. So don't leave us. You are watching the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League. It's round 4 from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, with all coverage on Apex Racing TV. But coverage will continue after these short messages. See you for race 2.
the most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Hi there, I'm Richard Jobling, Senior Software Engineer here at iRacing. I'd like to show you some of the work that we've been doing to improve the collision and the damage in our sim. One of the major changes we've made is how our collision systems work. The old system stored the track as parametric surfaces, and the cars were made of collections of spheres. As the cars moved around the track, we would recompute planes using the track surfaces, and then test those against the spheres. This worked well for spheres, but was too specialized to adapt to our shapes. So for the new system, we've built new high-resolution meshes for each track. This is more efficient and gives us a lot more flexibility for the car shapes. The new mesh incorporates all the track features our guys worked so hard to replicate. Things like curb geometry and changes in the surface material are all baked into the mesh. We've also taken our laser scan data and applied that to the mesh. And since the mesh is so high resolution, we capture all the detail that's necessary so that the tracks are just like the real thing. With our new mesh, we can now represent cars using smooth, convex hulls, which grouped together form the chassis, the bodywork, and all the other parts of the car. The new shapes are a much closer fit to the shape of the real car. During impacts, the shapes can deform according to the damage. and eventually they can break off as separate objects. All the parts, like wings, hoods and wheels, can also hang from their joints, flapping and vibrating until they eventually snap off. All these changes are going to add a whole new level of realism to our races. If you want to find out more, please visit iracing.com and check out my blog post for lots more details.
Hi, my name is Greg Hill. I'm the Vice President of Art and Production here at iRacing. This damage project that we've been discussing is certainly a project that involved all hands on deck to pull off. We've got a rather sizable number of cars in our portfolio, and not all of these cars have been built with this dynamic damage system in mind. So what we had to do is one by one go through our race cars, and we had a team of 3 artists, a highly technical modeler, our technical art director, and our associate art director. All took on each car one at a time, and the work involved was researching that car, researching what would happen to that car if it were in a crash, depending on the forces involved in the crash, how severely it would be damaged, what parts might come off, what those pieces might look like when they're removed, what it would look like where the car is has areas exposed that were previously covered by bodywork. So they had to do a lot of modeling to each race car, and they had to do a lot of work to essentially set up how the car would react to forces. So essentially setting the strength of the materials. What kind of force would it take to rip off this side pod, for example? Or under what circumstances would this nose cone get ripped off of a car? Or under which would it remain, but just be badly damaged? But all said, it's been a lot of work, but seeing the car models interact with the physics system and the new crash dynamics is really exciting and really cool to see, and definitely makes all that hard work worth it.
Hi, my name is Jose Diaz. I'm a visual effects artist at iRacing. I specialize in particle effects ranging from fireworks to water fountains, debris, crash, impacts, all in the service of improving the driving experience. So you have the main sort of new damage model that Richard's been working on. So that takes into consideration all the mounts and the chassis from the cars and which materials they are. And he's making all the calculations that tell you, like, okay, it got hit from this one side and the strength of that impact is this certain amount of values. If you hit something, that means that this mount gets off, something breaks. This gets added on top of that to sort of complement what is happening there with things that you would see in real life when a car crashes. So typically in a car crash, you will see all this.
Welcome back to Race 2, which is about to begin for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League. It's live here on Apex Racing TV. Jonathan Simon in the commentary booth alongside Sam Fitzpatrick, Samuli Kumo behind the scenes in production. And Sam, we had a good race one. Now we head to the reverse grid, like we said. And you said yourself, you've been in a reverse grid race in the past, racing in the BSRTC. Was it the Winter Series, I think you said?
The Winter Series, yeah, it was in the Radical. Yeah, that was, and of course commentating on lots of reverse grid racing. Not usually full reverse grids, though. Quite interesting that this league employs that, because, well, I don't want to give any of the drivers any ideas, but of course you could just drop to the back of the pack and get pole position for the next race. I must say, the sportsiness of these drivers, though, I didn't see anyone do that, despite in every other league I've seen, trying to exploit that as much as possible. But credit to the drivers out there for their gentlemanliness. And that will certainly mix up the order in this race. And there was plenty of battles going on regardless in race 1. But it was mainly drivers getting very close, maybe struggling to make the moves. I think now that we've got some fast drivers near the back and some slower drivers near the front, I think we're going to see a lot more overtakes in this race too.
So track details up on screen just as we head to race 2, and you can see partly cloudy skies out there. 45-degree track temp though. It's extremely hot, Sam, and that's almost some of the most challenging conditions you can have on iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. And this Mosport circuit is pretty tough when you got really hot track temperature, because there's so much load going into the front tires around this place, and there's very little time to rest them as well, because you got that final sector of the track. The first half of the track is constantly pounding those front tires. Maybe you got the back straight to cool them down a little bit, but I think that's certainly something to keep an eye out on. And maybe the drivers have even made some changes for this race too in order to deal with that.
So here is the grid on screen. These are your GTEs up ahead. It's led by an all Porsche Riot Sim Racing front row. Of course, this race, reverse grid. Anybody that finished on the lead lap from race 1 is reversed for the order. So that is Jordan Pruden and Simon Larter up ahead. Rest of the grid is on screen. You'll see some notable names down the order. Yarvin Wood starting from that 8th position. We cycle down towards the last bunch of your GTEs. 25 of them out there on the racetrack, and we will see if Stephen Lattimore, your race winner, starting from 17th, will be able to make his way up through the field quite rapidly. On to your GT3s now, as we are about to begin the formation lap. It'll be Andy Smith, a privateer, racing from the front. Dean Reddit right behind for Riot Sim Racing. So yet again, another Riot Sim Racing car up ahead. Of course, beginning from the front row here for this rolling start, and then cycling down the order. Where is Matt Allison? There he is, starting from 36th out of all cars. But of course, he is actually officially, to get this right, 11th for your GT3, Sam.
Yes, that's some good maths right there to work out that one. Or it's a difficulty trying to work out where everyone is in their class. And of course, the reverse grid, I believe, was produced by Race Management Service, one of the sponsors for this series. And trust me, no offense to iRacing, you know, it's good that they got the reverse grid, but some of the stuff that they have to use those reverse grids are very difficult to manage, and so Race Management Service, I believe, simplify that a little bit. I imagine instead of having to press 20 buttons on 20 different menus, you just press a couple of buttons instead. And well, I must say, it looks as though the reverse grid has been done very well, and so we should have a good race too.
Yes, as the drivers head through Moss Corner. Series sponsors, Century, Batteries, Lismore, and RMS Race Management Service. So visit rms55.com.au for more information as race 2 will begin. 20 minutes of action coming up. We know the fuel is set at a 50% limit, but we don't think these drivers, even though there's no mandatory pit stop, it's not required, and they won't need to make one regardless to begin this event. So your GT3s, there they are, just in the background you can see in the shot, but these two Riot Sim Racing cars here, Sam, have to get a good getaway and break away from Chris Whitaker from that FT1 Motorsport car at the start. It's a very short run down to turn number 1 here at Mosport.
Yeah, and usually the pole sits gets a bit of an advantage around this track, because you kind of get on the power midway around the final corner. It means that you can just get the field into single file nice and early, and those teammates have got to try to help one another out. If Pruden pulls away from the start, Larter's got to act as a bit of a roadblock to the other drivers behind.
So race 2 for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League is go! We go green here from Mosport, and what a start it is in your GTE field for the two Riot Sim Racing cars, still leading ahead of Chris Whitaker. So they pedal away here in the lead advantage. One Ferrari off into the background. Let's have a look at your GT3s though. Where is Andy Smith? Is he? Oh, we saw a car spin just as we left our shot, but your GT3s lead through turn number 1 now, but there's going to be drama up ahead here, Sam, as we saw a Ferrari off into the racetrack and another spinner here through Clayton Corner turn 2, and the GT3s are catching up to the traffic.
Yeah, they're just about going to avoid it. A poor run there coming out of turn 2 for Reed it, and now off the circuit goes Andy Smith. He's going to lose the lead. It's absolute carnage here. GTE's very slow in the middle of the circuit, and Andy Smith, no fault of his own, has lost the race lead. Tragic for him.
Chaos ensues as they head towards Moss Corner for the first time in race 2. Is that a Ferrari off as well up the inside? How did that Ferrari end up there?
It's
It was
Steven
almost off the
Latimore as
racetrack.
well. Yeah, it's Steven Latimore, race 1 winner, and well, we were talking about him perhaps winning race 2, but I don't think that's going to happen anymore because he's all behind the majority of the GTEs now. So after all, that Roy Clark is now the leader of the GT3 pack. I think he's gained about 4 positions from his race start.
So this is Jordan Pruden. You're right, sim racing cars, at least in your GTEs, have survived. Dean Reddit in your GT3 is currently listed as second, but Roy Clark, like you said there, Sam, leading for iRacing Today Motorsport. So 2 Porsches leading, and in the GT3s, it's a BMW from a Mercedes, from a Porsche, from an Audi. Mix of everything. It's like a packet of Skittles, basically.
Absolutely is. Yeah, so Roy Clark up 3 places so far as Matt Morris trying to make his way through the order, and he was one of the front runners. He finished 3rd in race 1. So a couple of the heavyweights of this series get caught up in incidents, and anyone who's ever done endurance racing before, where you get a bad start and you have to get your way through the slower classes, know how difficult it is, because these GT3s might even be getting blue flags right now. But Matt Morris, fortunately, not too many cars to overtake. He's just got 1 more to get by, but this is always very difficult for the race leader in the GT3s. Doesn't want to lose too much time because you can see Dean Reddit is right on his tail now.
And these two are obviously in different classes, and I think Roy Clark didn't want to give Matt Morris... He wanted to give Matt Morris the space, but didn't want to lose too much time out of it, but that's worked... not worked to perfection for Roy Clark, as right now Dean Reddit is only a 1/10 of a second behind. 1 Porsche off into the background there. Is that Fulton Penny off into the wall as well, Sam, and his race is done and dusted.
Yeah, had 2 crashes in race 1 and now a crash in race 2 as well. Certainly a day to forget for him. Hopefully he'll be back next week, but well, it's so difficult, this Mosport, so we've seen so many mistakes so far today. But yeah, some of these drivers have driven absolutely superb. But yeah, unfortunately, Fulton's race over for this evening.
You just saw a brilliant onboard shot there. Samuli Kuma working the cameras behind the scenes here at Apex Racing TV, and what a thrilling shot it was. That's definitely my favorite camera angle so far in this event. Just that a nose cam, it's basically called, as you see Dean Ross try and pull off a move here. It just the thrilling part, you know, I'm a huge open wheeler fan, but I always love watching Tin Tops race because you could just edge so close and get away with so much contact.
Yeah, absolutely. And these drivers, I'm sure, have taken advantage of it so far, because you can see the amounts of damage on Dean Ross's car. Having to go defensive. McGuire's going to try to go around the outside at turn 2. That's brave, because it's yeah, a real wall around the outside of that corner. You don't want to run too wide, but McGuire's going to pull this one off, surely. Fantastic action. This is the type of action you can get around Mosport with these long radius corners. And Troy McGuire there, fantastic move to move up. Unfortunately, it's only for 15th place.
That could mean something by the end of the event. You never know. Could be a race of attrition. Here they head through Moss Corner. Look at the elevation change, a whopping 50 meters as Maguire throws that Ferrari over the curbs, and that's not going to help his exit. And that's a corner at a Moss Corner there, Sam, where you can't be hitting the curb like that. You need that car planted. You need as much grip as possible. Some drivers will set the car up quite softly to get that grip, and that's Simon Lata, one of the Riot Sim Racing cars from the lead, is off into the wall.
Was running half a second off the race lead in second place, guarding his teammate nicely. And well, he was trying to guard his teammate here against Chris Whittaker, I believe that is, on the outside. Lata goes in way too hot and could not get the car stopped.
Oh, huge mistake there by one of your Riot Sim Racing cars. Oh, and another car off. That's the race on Oz car of Tyler Blackburn. He's out of the event, of course, so I mean, this is not what we want to see so far. Are these 4 having a nice little scrap here? They were, and now it's over. 3 Ferraris into the off the racetrack, 2 into the wall, 1 in the grass, and well, this is going to be quite hair-raising rejoining the racetrack. They do it quite safely there, but hey, I guess if you wanted to pay for a lawnmower, you can scrap that off your accounting books.
Absolutely. All three of them, I think, making heavy contact. I think maybe was it Wood? I think yeah, Jarvan Wood getting away a little bit kindly rather than Paul Wood also getting a little bit of contact from the wall. So yeah, once again, we're seeing a rate of attrition. Remember, on that last lap, it was actually the drivers in 2nd and 5th crashing out from the race. So if you just keep it clean, you're going to be in a decent place by the end of this one, as has been shown by Nathan Anderson, who's currently up 14 places. He's up into 4th place overall.
Here's Dean Ross. You're right, Anderson's up 14. Who else is up higher? Troy Maguire for TRMC Racing, up 16 positions, along with Brock Kremer for Fusion Sim Racing, up 16. So, along with Nathan Anderson, who Sam mentioned, largest movers and shakers throughout your field. A lot of DNFs, though, in race 2 this time out. And this is where the field starts to... It's that Mario Kart effect, isn't it? You're down the order, you know, you find the right items, you're able to creep your way up through the order, and now you get drivers bunched up in
and into the wall save for Dean Ross with Gary
goodness,
getting involved in that one.
Where is that on the racetrack? That's
just coming out of Moss corner there. So Matt Morris gets through and a little bit of extra contact there to make things worse. And so who's that stop? There is a BMW now towed back to the pits. But really disappointing there. We've also got an issue for Simon Mazzomo currently, just dropping a few places. There he is. He's gone off into Narnia there and rejoins the circuit.
Well, as soon as we switched to that view, I did not expect to see a BMW impaled to a car I couldn't even identify. So I think that these guys just need to keep their cool here, and it's good to see Jordan Pruden in your GTEs leading the field quite comfortably. We're watching the leaders for your GT3s now. This is Scott Gamble in the Audi right behind Roy Clark. Roy Clark's led every lap so far, so is Jordan Pruden. Am I going to lose some money here, Sam? Because I made a bet at winners of each race. We're not going to lead every single lap. Not going to put a commentary curse on, but almost halfway through this event, it seems to be the case.
Yeah, it's not looking too good for you. You'll be wishing Chris Whittaker good luck, and also Scott Gamble. To be fair, Scott Gamble did manage to get past Dean Reedett, who's now down into 4th position. And Bradley Sanders as well is looking pretty good. But you can see a 1 second gap for Roy Clark currently. That BMW, though, could be susceptible to the overtake down these long straights. As everyone on iRacing knows, it's not the fastest car down the straights. And so the Audi driver might just fancy his chances at a move within a couple of laps. But well, it's hard to call between any of these top five separated by about 3 seconds right now.
Very, very close. And here they head through the final couple of corners here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. S's White's corner through turn 10. They begin the lap here through turn number 1, the long sweeping right-hander. It doesn't seem like there's 50 meters of elevation change here, Sam, but across that very short layout you can see on screen now on the track map, they're heading through Clayton corner now. The right-hander's Quebec, and I think once we start to get up to the left-hand side of the screen, where you see Moss corner, the double apex right-hander,
also
you see the lead battle now.
Prudence off the circuit, and that is for the race lead. And now now into another. That's Whittaker off the circuit. Surely going into the race lead now is David Miller. What an incredible turn of events that was. Pruden and Whittaker coming together at the end of the Andretti straight, and David Miller waltzes through into the race lead, and they're still going at it now. So Pruden and Whittaker tries to go for the move. Pruden defended, and he's still defending, and they've managed to lose each other a chance at the race win now.
Not much time to reclaim that position. He's a bit too far behind here into turn 8 at the end of the straight, but Pruden, you don't want to be tight gripping the wheel at this point. You know, you want to be reeling that advantage in over the next 10 laps. It's a long-term game. Look at him get squirrely through White's corner, and we've just flicked away from him, but I think he might be on the back foot.
They're already starting
to... few corners time. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, they're just making up a little bit of time, David Miller, so didn't pick up too much damage from the contact that Pruden and Whitaker just had. I guess you might be getting back your money now that David Miller is leading this race from 10th on the grid. But still, well, Pruden and Whitaker, I think this is getting really personal now between these two. They were fighting for the lead. They made contact. They're off the circuit. And now into the pits, in fact, goes Jordan Pruden. And, well, didn't seem to have too much damage. He hasn't got a penalty, I believe. At least nothing has been typed up on my screen. So Jordan Pruden was the race leader, and he is going to drop way back now. And in fact, I think he's going straight through the pits. Yeah, so he's just served a slowdown. Served a drive-through penalty. And Jordan Pruden, then his chance of the race win completely gone now.
I don't recall seeing race control hand him a drive-through. So has he? Do you see the lead now? It's getting close here, Sam, between where is this in your GT3s, of course, between Roy Clark and Scott Gamble.
Yeah, Gamble all over the back of Clark now, with Sanders only just behind. Allison's now up to 4th place, and he's gained a lot of pace from himself. Down the inside there was Sanders. Wow, that would have been a move, because there was no room down the inside, only just enough room for the very small BMW car. But these guys losing each other lots of time, and well, I wouldn't bet to get Matt Allison right now. He's absolutely charging up to these guys. Just got past Dean Reddit. And yeah, you can see he's really not too far off the race lead now, only a couple of seconds. So Gamble under pressure from Sanders. Got to work together potentially, because obviously they don't want to lose each other too much time to the race leader, Roy Clark. He's re-established that lead. It had gone down to pretty much 1/10 of a second. But quick through the first half of this lap, he's broken the draft to a certain extent. And now it's Gamble, in fact, trying to defend from the drivers behind.
Chris Whitaker's very close, or was close, in your GTEs as well. So, lead. Well, no one has one hand on the trophy, at least in both classes. Look at Bradley Sanders and Scott Gamble here, battle for P2-3, and Matt Allison is going to make it a battle. A three-way battle for P2 now as they head through Clayton Corner. And they got very close through turn 1. Now, I think he was just trying to force him offline. I know a lot of these drivers probably know you can't make a pass into turn 1 here, Sam, but at least trying to force the guy offline, you can set up the overtake a few corners later.
Yeah, just trying to get the cut back. That's all you can really do around this part of the circuit. Just get the cut back, get a slightly better exit contact between 2nd and 3rd now. A bit of a constitutive effect, and now the race leader is almost off the circuit. Roy Clark is surely going to lose the lead here. A complete self-mistake, and Scott Gamble will move alongside. What can the drivers behind do? Now they've got the slipstream effect, but well, which way is the better line? The inside or the outside? Clark just about ahead. They are drawing completely level. Gamble gets his nose ahead round the outside into turn 8. Is there going to be contact like we saw earlier on? There is going to be contact onto the grass there. Roy Clark holds on to the lead, and now trying to get up into 2nd position is Scott Gamble, and now contact between the top 2 and off into the wall. And Sanders takes the race lead all of a sudden. Gamble drops down to 3rd, and Roy Clark, who was leading the race for so long, seems to be done in this race.
It's not what you want to see through the final corner. Ray Robbins racing, but there's a limit sometimes. Here's Roy Clark. Was Roy Clark anyway, watching Scott Gamble now in the 4th position, being demoted. But good for Matt Allison though here. You have to had to be said. Matt Allison could be on towards another race win.
Yeah, this would be some comeback as side by side once again. And Allison is into the race lead all of a sudden. Is he a little bit too wide? But no, Matt Allison leads now in the GT3 field. Quite a remarkable drive this. Has been storming his way up the order, and as chaos has ensued in front of him, he's taken full advantage.
Just remember, this is fixed setup, so real talent right now from the driver of Matt Allison in the 1st position. So Allison is listed now, it's updated, he's into the 1st spot there. And look at the gaps though, this battle for 1st. It's not over. How about Reddit and Gamble behind? There's a bit of a bump drive through the corner. Going defensive is the driver of Dean Reddit. And Wow, I mean, that was very smart, you know, that final corner, White's corner. It's not an overtaking spot, but he knew that the driver of Scott Gamble was going to have a peak.
Yeah, definitely fantastic race craft amongst a lot of these drivers at the moment. As Anderson hanging on to second place against Whitaker. So that's Anderson actually getting past Whitaker, I believe. Yes, it is. So Anderson up in second place for the first time in this event. He might be the points highest scorer today, but back down the inside comes Whitaker. Gonna have the ideal line though for turn 2 is Anderson, and almost getting involved just behind. There is contact now, and they're both going to be off the circuit. Whitaker off, who spent so much of this race in second place, and that's Herpax as well off the track. Fortunately, they don't reach the wall, but incredible racing out here. It's just incident after incident.
It's not over though, 5 minutes to go, and I've thoroughly enjoyed this one, a lot more than race one, and it's probably the purpose from that reverse grid as we see Bradley Sanders on screen.
Yeah, running off the circuit once again is Whitaker, and oh dear, well, I don't think he's having the best time out to it right now. Was running in second place, he's now dropped down into 13th position and having an absolute mare all of a sudden. Here is Wallace, and they're now getting past some of the backmarker GT3s, I believe, which won't be entirely fantastic for them. And some of these GT3s, I'm pretty angry right now, so won't be giving their GTE fellow drivers too much space. But doing a good job there, getting out of the way was one of the drivers.
Yeah, most certainly. So it looks like your GTEs is all settled down by the looks of it, Sam, but I mean, definitely your GT3s, the battle on screen, we were seeing the battle for first between Matt Allison, Bradley Sanders, Dean Reddit, Scott Gamble. That is not over for sure, but Matt Allison, I mean, the race on Oscar is races before, and could win another one here at Mosport.
Yeah, I was completely writing off any chance of a double win, and yet Matt Allison, it looks like he's going to do it. Quite incredible drive this. And yeah, like you said earlier on, fixed setup. The BMW, I don't think is really perceived to be the fastest car out there. And yet he's just managed to get to the front of the field. And I think now he's just absolutely cruising. He hasn't extended that lead too much since he took over the lead. I think he's absolutely just managing this like he did in race 1 so superbly, and just maintain that gap by about 0.4 of a second over Bradley Sanders and Dean Reddit. But what a fantastic battle this has been in the GT3 class. It took a while to really reach its climax, but once it did, we saw quite a frantic couple of laps. Sanders staying within 0.4 of a second, closing a little bit down this back straight, with Reddit just stays super consistent, always seems to be in that third position. And of course, for the championship, Allison is going to take a real step towards perhaps that championship later on, because he will definitely be the highest point scorer, as you can understand, with the whole position and a couple of race wins. I imagine a couple of fastest laps as well going his way. Dean Ross trying to find his way past currently, because he's a GTE in amongst the GT3s. So sorry, we've got the race leader just coming across the line. David Miller is going to win in the GTE class. A fantastic victory. He waited for everything to go on around him, and once it did, he took full advantage, takes a comfortable win in the end over Nathan Anderson. And he will be absolutely delighted with that in the Porsche car. Starts from 10th place, did Miller, but you would not guess that now that we're at the checkered flag.
Yeah, brilliant win from him, and apologies for any technical issues, at least I've been having towards the end of this event, but a brilliant race from David Miller. Good to see Nathan Anderson on the recovery drive, and Matt Allison with a second race victory coming up in the GT3s. He's racing, well, he's screaming away, isn't he, here through the first for the final parts of the lap, and he will take a valiant victory yet again in the BMW.
Yeah, what a win that is for Matt Allison. Because it wasn't necessarily the most stormy start, he just had to plug away at it. And he wins race 2. And like I said, for the championship, that is going to do it so much good, seeing that no one else really managed to get 2 consistent high finishes. What a fantastic day this has been for Matt Allison.
Nice victory from him. We'll look at your final race results in just a moment's time, but I've been in plenty a reverse grid race in my past, at least 7-8 years ago. I used to do a lot in the V8 supercar, but now, you know, I always miss it after today. You know, it just reminded me of working on my racecraft, trying to fight my way through the field. Sometimes you're not always the quickest driver out there, so you're just trying to enjoy a good midfield scrap. But today, you know, it's just the beauty of this development league here, the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League, is a perfect sort of atmosphere for these guys to develop their racecraft and talent in a fixed setup series.
Yeah, definitely, because it's not necessarily the most kind of hardcore and serious league in the world. And so I imagine, you know, we saw a few scratches out there, and maybe this race exhibited why some people don't like the reverse grid. Personally, it exhibited why I love the reverse grid as a commentator, because we saw so much action. And I imagine, despite a few incidents, hopefully everyone will be friends after this one. And well, in terms of the broadcast, I think that was absolutely thrilling. Never knew what was going to happen at each race, and well, hopefully that will maintain for the rest of the season.
So let's take a look at your final race results at the conclusion of race 2.
Yes, and it's David Miller winning out 4.5 seconds ahead of Nathan Anderson. Fantastic drive through the field for the pair of them. Chad Hearn was in 3rd place with Brock Kramer. A good drive up 19 places to 4th. Justin Wallace finished in 5th with Adam Gardner in 6th as Yarvin Wood. Rob Gray, Scott Chambers and Nathan Herpatz in 10th place. Then behind that was Jordan Pruden, Matt Morris, Chris Whitaker, Simon Mazzomo, Stephen Lattimore. Of course, race 1 winner, good recovery after an early crash. Gary Cousins and Paul Wood. Those were the drivers who, in fact, actually Dean Ross and Simon Latta also finished on the lead lap. Jeremy Clark, Pat Gallo, Tyler Blackburn, Troy Maguire, Fulton Penny and James Wilson were the retirees in that class. And then the winner of race 1 and race 2 in the GT3 field, Matt Allison, ahead of Bradley Sanders and Dean Redditt. Fantastic battle amongst those guys. Scott Gamble, a solid 4th place with Liam Tipping in 5th. And then it was Martin Casey, BJ Kennedy, Alexander Newton, Michael Whiting, Andy Smith, Damon Mulqueen, Roy Clark, who led the race for so long, Grant Madaford, and then the retirees were Alan Harding, and that was pretty much it in terms of the retirees, actually. So pretty remarkable in that GT3 class. They really stuck out.
A brilliant race again so far. Now we have a couple of drivers here for interview. Matt Allison is available first. Let's speak to Matt Allison. Matt Allison, another race victory. Just checking if you're there, mate.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, brilliant victory. I mean, who knew you were going to walk away with 2 of those today? 2 trophies.
I had no idea myself. I tell you what, that second race, I nearly touched cloth a few.
And so talk about your... Oh, sorry, go on. I didn't know you were finished.
No, it's all right. No, it was pretty hairy. A couple of incidents there. I reckon I just escaped without touching people, but yeah, it was pretty mental. It was.
Talk about how you made your way up through the field. Was it more... Is it your overtaking skills, or was it more other drivers just finding themselves in a race of attrition?
I think it's more the latter. It was just a bit of patience and just seeing what would happen. I think I was lucky with Damon, who unfortunately, and also Martin, both on the same. We were both on the, or all 3 of us on the same pace, and yeah, Damo just had a bit of an issue, and Martin unfortunately got caught up behind Liam. But yeah, and then it was just a matter of being patient.
I mean, I think that's right. It's the right way to do it, isn't it? Is to not overdrive or try and pull off 5 passes in one corner. You didn't take anybody out, I don't think, and your way up the order and led by example in a fixed setup series too. By the way, it has to be said.
Yeah, cheers, fellas. No, it was a good race. You know, you can lose it in that second race so easily. So it was just a matter of just praying and holding on for dear life and just, you know, following through and waiting and being patient. And yeah, it just went my way today, which I was very happy.
Nice. Anyone you'd like to thank from the Race on Oz team?
Mate, the usual boys, Steve, Liam, who else we got? We got Ben, Ty, and Ian Smee as well, the title sponsor.
Yeah, awesome. So that is Allison, your winner, double trouble in your GT3 class today. Thanks, Matt, yet again. Brilliant racing. We will head to Sam. Who do you fancy next?
Well, I think we've got to have a chat with David Miller because he won race 2 in the GTE class. And David, that was quite remarkable. You're running in, what, 3rd or 4th position, and then suddenly the best thing that can ever happen to any race driver occurred. The top 2 took each other out.
Yeah, no, that was pretty good. That my luck anyway. I was reeling him in slowly, but don't think I would have got him by the end.
Of course, after that, you managed to really pull out the lead impressively. How did you kind of keep your concentration? Were you particularly intense in the car, or were you kind of struggling to stay concentrated right to the end?
No, I just kept my focus, just kept pushing out my laps like I normally do. I'm pretty consistent like that. Just yeah.
And of course, the track temperature out there today was super hot, particularly in that race too. We saw a lot of kind of mistakes from drivers. How did you find it out there? How did you think the grip levels were?
Yeah, grip level wasn't the best in that second race. Like, yeah, a bit hot out there. But first race was pretty good.
And in terms of the rest of the season, are you aiming for anything in the championship, or are you just looking for a few more of these race wins?
Just a few more race wins. Just be consistent. Try to get up as high as I can in the points.
Absolutely. Well, we wish you the best of luck for that one, David. And is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Big shout out to Redback Racing and LeBlanc, one of our sponsors.
Well, thanks, David, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
All right, no worries, thank you.
I guess, Sam, should we let's drag Race Control's Ryan Kolstad in. Have a chat to Ryan. Ryan, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you going?
How you going, mate? Hope you enjoyed the race. How was it all from Race Control? Any decisions you want to clarify from a broadcasting perspective?
Well, one thing I will notice is obviously you guys couldn't hear my comms in the chat, so there was a couple of drive-through penalties that I did hand out in race 2, but in future races I'll know to type that out so you guys know exactly what I'm doing there. That's just a little bit of a learning curve for me. I did hand out a couple of drive-through penalties there. There's a few incidents I do need to review post-race, pretty close calls, and a couple of net codes that happened as well. But overall, I think it's our first race back doing sprint racing. Sorry. When we first started, I think season 1 and 2, we did sprint rounds. But unfortunately, iRacing, when you're doing multiple splits, it's hard to do reverse grids when you've got multiple splits. And this is where I'm very thankful for Dave Clements making this RMS software, because it's made the ability to do these reverse grids very easy. The other thing a lot of people may or may not know is it's almost impossible to do multi-class tournament racing in iRacing. It doesn't really allow for it. And it's something that RMS is letting us do as well, which is really, really handy.
Nice. And people have to visit rms55.com.au for more information, of course.
They certainly do, yes. We're still in alpha testing, as Dave likes to call it. I get my hands on the software very, very soon, and we'll be able to start playing with it. At the moment, Dave does all my servers for me. But first and foremost, I'd like to thank Century Batteries for helping us get this series going again. They've been great for us and giving us a real push and injection into the series. It's testament to the guys that show up each week. We have between 70 to 80 drivers show up every week, so it's it's been a great series, and really like to thank you guys for getting involved and doing this broadcast for us. And I dare say we will be having a chat about doing future races as well.
Oh, I like that. Very intrigued. Thanks. You should have. The thing is, you should develop a button in the RMS software that gives can sneakily reverse the grid, but then press a button that gets your drivers up in the first and second, and people go, "Oh, it's glitched," and you'd be like, "No, that's how it's supposed to be," you know? That could be the yeah.
I think my team would like that. There's a few drivers from my team that are in this series. I run my own race team as well as run this league. So Team PRT, they're pretty easy cars to spot, the big Century battery cars. So yeah, I think a couple of my teammates might like that, but yeah, I think we might stay away from that one just for a parody thing.
So thanks again, Ryan. We'll hopefully speak to you in future races for sure.
Yep.
I'd
just really like to thank Apex coming on board and doing the series for us.
I appreciate it. So that is Ryan Kolstad, who acted as race control here today for your Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League. And Sam, we still have not spoken to... No, I think they left. There was one driver we hadn't spoken to yet, but they've left.
We've also got Damon Mulqueen, actually, who I don't think we've spoken to yet.
Oh, excuse me. No, yes, I missed him. So
shall
let's
we
speak to
quickly
Damon
drag
Mulqueen.
him up? Damon Mulqueen. Damon, how was today for you? You saw you were a little bit detached at the end of race 2, but in the end, was it an okay day in the driver's seat?
Yeah, no, it was a really good day. All things considering, except for that second race, we'll put that aside. Really, I haven't touched a GT3 car in a long time. I mainly focus on the V8, and I've been helping out with race control here and there for AMF, and I decided that I'd get back into it, and this was my first race. And I was initially looking at another car to run, then I've gone with the Z4 and really enjoyed it, and good.
And how did you find the fixed setups in this race? Do you think it kind of suited your driving style, or how did you find it?
The great thing about the series is the fixed setups. It doesn't change from track to track; it stays the same. If there is a wee change, it might be gearing only for say a longer track like Le Mans if we go there. But the fixed setup is good, and if you can find a car that suits your driving style, it's sweet. Today it was a sort of a late minute decision to actually drive and properly race, so I just had to go pick a car and drive it anyway.
And it seems as though the BMW is a pretty good car. Of course, you finished second place in race 1, following Matt Allison home. That stayed pretty close all the way through. Did you ever think that you were going to be able to make the move, or was the gap just constantly staying at about 1 second?
I was hopeful. I was more or less hoping Matt would make a minor mistake, but I was giving it my all, and I noticed I had possibly a few issues. So the main worry was to keep, I believe it was Martin Casey behind me, just in case anything happened. And yeah, the idea was to go and catch Matt, pass him, but I think Matt just looked after the tyres really well. He managed to keep them under him, and towards the end, I think there was a GTE in front of me just as I started to catch back up, and the aero wash on that was just enough to have me fall back a wee bit more.
Well, it's great to watch you out there today, Damon. Is there anyone you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank all the guys at Synergy Sim Racing. Now this will be a mouthful because I still haven't learned all the sponsors, unfortunately. Trackstar Racewear, DGD Customs, CSR Fabrications, JK Signs, Eaton, D-Photo, Newlon, 88 Media, and if there's anyone else, I am sorry.
Good effort, good effort. We'll hopefully see you soon on Apex Racing TV.
Yeah, I'm looking at doing the series full time from now, so hopefully I'll be back here. Awesome. Hopefully with a few wins.
See you then.
Cool, cheers.
And he sounds like a Kiwi to me. And apologies if we had the Australian flag up. Damon Mulqueen, who drove splendidly here today. And Sam, any final thoughts before we wrap up the broadcast?
Well, it was absolutely awesome to broadcast this series for the very first time, and just the amount of action we had. You think we had 40 minutes of racing up there? You wouldn't guess it. We had pretty much a season full of incidents and overtakes and controversy. It was absolutely fantastic to watch, and very much thanks to the league for allowing us to broadcast this one, and hopefully future ones as well. But yeah, thanks to all the drivers as well for putting on such a great show.
Hopefully we get to cover a few more events. The next one for the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Development League will be next week, the 14th of July, and that will be at the Daytona International Circuit, Daytona International Speedway, excuse me. It will be the endurance layout for them. Pretty much a race every single week up until the 1st of September to conclude the season for round 12 at Road Atlanta. Very similar to Mosport, has to be said, here today at round 4. Most of all, check out upcoming Apex Racing TV broadcasts. So visit the YouTube channel, of course, subscribe, and there's plenty more events coming up. The BSR MX-5 Monday Cup coming up as well, along with the Rick Motec Sports Car Series, the iRacing VRS GT Sprint Series, and so much more. From myself, Jonathan Simon, Sam Fitzpatrick alongside me, as well as Samuli Kumo behind the scenes, who did an awesome job in production. We say so long, and we'll see you next time from the Apex Racing TV commentary booth.